2 days ago, which was Lamed Kislev and Aleph Deresh Chedesh Tevis, we started learning this Maimed, Vayeshev. And with Hashem's help, we're going to complete it today. I don't want to say finish, because there's no such thing as finish, but complete this Maimed. Now, let me begin with a small introduction. On Tuesday, we learned the beginning and the end of the Maimed. We learned the Vayeshev part of the Maimed. Today we're going to learn what is actually the majority of the Maimed. It's much more than half. This is the Chanuka part of the Maimed. And what I want to say by way of introduction, which is really going to be in the text inside anyway, but I'm going to say the way of introduction is as follows. The Maimed is going to discuss the concept of Pada BiShalom. Pada BiShalom means you have a war and you win peacefully. Having a war and winning peacefully is like stealing everything you say and saying I'm an honest thief. I mean, how do you win a war and win peacefully? How do you win a war? Pada BiShalom, it's a strange concept. The very next word is Krav. Krav does not only mean war, Krav means hand-to-hand combat. Face-to-face, which is the most difficult kind of war, the most scarring kind of war. What do you call Pada BiShalom? The question is so blunt, so obvious, so plain, so basic, so on the surface. How do you call it Pada BiShalom? And of course the answer, I explained it to you so many times, that nobody ever wins wars. There's no such thing as winning a war. There is only such a thing as losing a war. And when one loses a war, it means that they can't afford to fight anymore. The winner also loses. No, but then he can still afford to fight. He's considered a winner because he survives his opponent. Mer gonisht. There's no such thing as winning a war. Unless you have a secret weapon. Unless you bring to the battlefield a klei milchama, a tool of war, which renders the struggle not balanced. When you render the struggle not balanced, your enemy curses the day he started up with you. An example for this would be the atomic bomb. The atom bomb didn't just make the Japanese lose. It made us win. Because the atom bomb said to the Japanese, we want to be that big man's friend. Not, we don't want to fight with him now, we'll fight with him tomorrow. We never want to fight with him. That's called winning. Wars are usually not won, they're lost. Pada BiShalom means that something happens on the battlefield, or something happens someplace, that renders it not just that one side lost, and as a result the other side is the victor, but that the victor actually won. And the difference is, when you lose a war, you always think tomorrow you're going to fight again. Think about the Germans in World War I. World War I, Germany lost. World War II, the Allies won. You understand the difference? It's plain. That's what Pada BiShalom means. Pada BiShalom means that there's a tool, there's a weapon employed in a battle that doesn't make it that one side loses, but the other, that the side that loses, the Lashon HaPasuk is Gam Evav Yashlim Ime, your enemy makes peace with you. Not the enemy surrenders, it gives up, it compromises. The enemy makes peace with you. The enemy wants to be your friend. That's the Pshat Pada BiShalom. In the case of David HaMelech, what was David HaMelech's secret weapon? Tilim. Tilim was not on the battlefield, but Tilim won the war. In the case of the Alter Rebbe, what was the secret weapon? Chassidus Chabad. In the case of the Mittel Rebbe, what was the secret weapon? Chassidus Chabad, and so forth. The ultimate Pada BiShalom is going to be when Moshiach comes. Now, once we explain Pada BiShalom, that Pada BiShalom means you have two sides that are engaged in a war. And one side wins, and the other side loses. But it's not the pshat that the winner simply survived the loser, but that the winner has a weapon, a tool, that makes him a real victor, that the opponent doesn't want to fight anymore, the opponent wants to be his friend. There's two madregas. And the two madregas are the following. Madrega number one is, one side wins Taka, but he has to go to the battlefield. He goes to where his opponent is, he engages with his opponent, and because of a secret weapon, it's not only that his opponent loses, but that he wins. What's the mashal for this? The mashal for this is the Aron HaKedesh in the Midbar. The holy ark in the desert, flattened the land, it killed snakes and scorpions. It made it very easy for Yidden to traverse. But Derech Shalom, the Holy Ark never fought with a snake. The Holy Ark came to a place, all the snakes and scorpions died. That's all. Or went away. But at least the Ark had to go to that place. That's the first Madrega in Pada BiShalom. The higher Madrega in Pada BiShalom is you sit in your place. You don't go any place. You shine a light, and it transforms, it completely changes over the enemy into a friend. So the Rebbe says, all the Pada BiShaloms till Moshiach, all the Pada BiShaloms till Moshiach are in the first category. You can win a war in a peaceful way, which means really win. When you win a war in a peaceful way, you have to go to where your enemy is. And then there is not leaving your place in the first place, which we don't have to fight at all. Two Madregas in Pada BiShalom. Says the Rebbe. And this is again, this is really a preparation for what we're going to read today inside. Chanuka has two nisim. The ness of winning the war and the ness of the Pach Hashem. What's the difference? The winning of the war took place on a battlefield. The winning of the Pach Hashem took place in the Beis HaMikdash. Says the Rebbe, in effect, these two Madregas are both Pada BiShalom. When the Yidden defeated the Syrian Greeks, that was not Milchama. That was Shalom. The Syrian Greeks ran licking their wounds and said, we want nothing to do with these people. Why? They had a secret weapon. What was the secret weapon? The secret weapon was Mesiras Nefesh Al Kiddush Hashem. On the highest Madrega possible. And consequently, there was also Pada BiShalom in the war against the Syrian Greeks, notwithstanding it was a real war. But the Shemin, this is the higher Madrega, Pada BiShalom. You sit in Yerushalayim, you find a jug of oil, and it transforms the world completely, which is a Madrega of Moshiach. That's what Rebbe is saying. There's two Nisim in Chanuka, and like I said to you the other day, in this Maimer, we're learning the two Nisim as both being part of the Chanuka story, although when we say Chanuka, we mean the Iked, Lahalal, Lahedis or Lahalal, we mean the Ness of the Shemin, not the Ness of the Milchama. In this Maimer, the Rebbe suggests that there's two miracles, they're both Pada BiShalom, the two Madregas of Pada BiShalom I just described. This is my introduction. Now let's learn the Maimer, and we're going to begin on page Kuf Pei Hey, where I made the Aleph. I'm going to push it, going to go in order. Va'im is a very nice Maimer. It's really a nice Maimer. It's Poshet HaGishmak Maimer. Special. And you know what it is? It's the first Chanuka Maimer of the Rebbe's Nesias. And it's the first, and you can see it's the first. The Rebbe is Poshet explaining it in the most, as they say, Berachel Bitcha Ktana. He explains the Chanuka story so nicely. And there's a few caveats, there's a few surprises. So let's read it inside. We know from Chasidus that the decree of the Yavonim, they didn't object to people learning Torah. Learn Torah all you want. Like the famous diok, the famous observation which the Friedrich Rebbe makes in his Maimorim, to make the Torah comes from Nebish. Learn Torah, but it's not godly. It's a scholarly work. All of us understand that the Torah is the wisdom of the Jewish people. The Jewish nation are called the people of the book. And when you say the people of the book, you don't mean a book of chemistry. You mean a book of Torah. That's our Chochma Narvina. A human being with a mind recognizes Maven Shechochma Satera, Chochma Muka V'chuli. The Chochma of Torah is a very deep wisdom, and so on. So the Rebbe Valzeh Hiskimu Gam HaYavonim. The Syrian Greeks have no problem with scholarship. Shalim with a Torah Yihya, the Yid should learn Torah. Narvashaden Mitzad Mailas HaChochma V'Aseichel. They have to learn it as a scholarly work, as an intellectual work. She studied Torah like you study any philosophy. Their issue was like Lashkiach Torah Secha, to make Yidden forget that this is God's Torah. Lashkiach Mi Yisrael, she Torah's Havaya. Take God out of the Torah. It's not divine, it's man-made. And the Rebbe continues, last line on page Kuf Pehei, Yukmeikim B'Nigei Mitzvahs. Same is true also when it came to Yidden's doing mitzvahs. The Goyim had no problem with mitzvahs, so long as Yiretzeinam Lavida Mechuke Yiretzeinach Dach, make the Jewish people forget that the mitzvahs are the Eibishter's will. And the Rebbe explains that we know that there's three madregas and mitzvahs. There's mitzvahs which are completely reasonable. Those are called mishpatim. There are mitzvahs which are semi-reasonable, which are called edus. And there are mitzvahs which are not reasonable at all. Those are called chukim. And that's what the issue was. Masha'en kena chukim, 6 lines. from the top of page Kuf Pei Vav, as opposed to Chukim, Heima Mitzvahs, Shein Le'mokim, B'Seichel Klal. These are mitzvahs that make no sense whatsoever. Uklashein Chazal, as it says in the Medrash Chuk, I have carved a decree. Gezeira Gazati, I have declared a decree. And you can't question it. V'zehu sha'yevonim rotu lavim. That was the issue of the Syrian Greeks, to take away Chukei Tzeinach. You want to do mitzvahs? It's a beautiful Jewish tradition. It's a beautiful tradition. It's a great culture. God forbid you should really mean it mitanemis. Then you're arcane. Then you're primitive. Then you're old-fashioned. Then you're not living in this century. This was the issue. Torah and mitzvahs, as far as the Syrian Greeks were concerned, were a wonderful culture. Tarbut, chokhmah. And the whole Indian is to take the Eibishter out of it. Kum tachais. Hert was mireta. How the Rebbe Pashat explains the Chanuka story so balabatish. The Syrian Greeks are like the West. Forgive my candor, yeah? Yiddish Judaism is a beautiful tradition. So the oldest traditions. But those Orthodox, they take it a little too far. You know, I remember Bob Grant, who was on Erev Yisrael, was once complaining. He read in the paper that on Pesach and Eretz Yisrael they feed the animal in the zoo matzahs. He was always mentioned. This is sugar. You're feeding the animal. In Eretz Yisrael, the animals in the zoo eat matzah instead of chometz. Das dem sehr stark gebadet. Why? They have to be so. Man made the taka mit anemet. They wish the taka gave us Torah and mitzvahs. And it's not just a nice culture. It's a truth. And if it's a truth, it doesn't change. The Greeks didn't mind the chokhmas Torah and the culture of mitzvahs as long as it's godly. So, but I got to tell you something. That's not the whole story. That was the official position. The official position was take away the Eibush from Torah and take away the mitzvahs, the Eibush from mitzvahs. Next paragraph, Amar Iker Hamachuvan Shalayevonim Hoyam. If you want to know the truth, their real issue was Levatel Mi Yisrael Klolos Ian the Limud Torah V'Kiyum HaMitzvahs. They really planned to destroy not just the God in Torah and the God in mitzvahs, but the wisdom of the Torah and the culture in mitzvahs. Their ultimate end was to erase and eradicate Torah and mitzvahs from face of earth altogether. Now, but then they were smart. They were schemers. They were devious. And they picked on the right thing. You take God out of Judaism, Judaism will kill itself. Like anything else. Their position was Yizbatlu Yisrael Malimud Torah. Yidden should stop learning Torah. Torah Hashem. Take God out of the Torah. Do the mitzvahs, take the God out of the mitzvahs. Says the Rebbe Hareze Yavi Lebitl, but eventually this will destroy Klolos Inyan HaTorah mitzvahs. The Syrian Greeks had a two-part plan. You take God out of the Yiddishkeit, they'll get rid of the Yiddishkeit themselves. There's a famous quote, a famous pshat from the Frierdiker Rebbe. But state in the Gemara that the Yetzer Hara comes to a person and he tells him, right, what's the method of the Yetzer Hara? Say kach. Today he tells you to do this. Tomorrow tells you to do this. So he tells you ultimately go and worship God. What's the pshat in this Gemara? The pshat in this Gemara is Yetzer Hara comes to you with a small Aveira. Then he comes to you with a bigger Aveira. Then he comes to you with a bigger Aveira still. That's the pshat in the Gemara, yeah? Says the Frierdiker, that's not the pshat in the Gemara, no. He sees you learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Oh, beautiful culture. It's a wonderful way. I respect the Jews. They really have a powerful tradition. Do Yiddishkeit. But mit a goyish cook, it's not Eibishter. Hayei mema zekach means learn Torah and do mitzvahs. But kach. Learn kach because it's beautiful. The Mochama say kach. He says learn Torah. But kach. How are you learning Torah? It's a great chokhmah. The real issue is that if you take to the Eibishter Torah mitzvahs, it's not going to have a kiyum whatsoever. When a Yid learns Torah and does mitzvahs, the Yetzer comes along and tells him asalos. Aseikach tu azeh. Learn Torah. I'm agreeing. Do mitzvahs. Shegam hu maskim lakach. He also agrees to Torah mitzvahs. Shekayim mitzvahs mitzad aseichel. Do mitzvahs reasonably. The key is v'lei mitzad yesem ratzon havaya. Take the Eibishter out of it. V'gam hu maskim shil metera. Let in Torah. B'navadem mitzad aseichel shabbat. It's reasonable. It's scholarly. V'emalei shegam hu yilmadim is going to learn with him God. Says the Rebbe, but last line in the paragraph, Aideze hine save yizbata legamri. He's a chochmatic, as Yetzer Hara about. He pushes the envelope slowly. When you take God out of Yiddishkeit, he knows that Seif Kosef, Yiddishkeit will kill itself. It will die itself. Why? Why? Why, if a person learns Torah because it's a scholarship and does mitzvahs because it's a nice culture, will it eventually die completely? Says the Rebbe will be in Ha'inyin, and he brings a very interesting pshat. See, this is something you don't have in a lot of Chanukah Maimorim. That's why this is so basic. The word that I told you, everybody knows, right? This is the word from the Rabbeim, that the Yevonim didn't mind Yiddishkeit, they minded the Eibishter. As long as you take God out of Yiddishkeit, it was fine for the Syrian Jews. Correct? Yeah. What is this Maimon saying? No. That's what they said. What do they mean? Today you're not going to do Yiddishkeit because of the Eibishter, you can do Yiddishkeit because of culture, and you're going to study Torah because it's wisdom. Tomorrow you won't do it at all. But why? If you didn't have a tradition, and they're godless, why should they give their tradition? Right? This time of the Reform, who needs God? You have to have tradition. The New Ages, what they call themselves, the Reconstructionists. But we have a beautiful culture. Yeah? Says the Rebbe like this. When you take the Eibish out of Yiddishkeit, Yiddishkeit cannot survive. Not it won't survive, it can't. There's a medrash on the pasuk that says Reya Zenes Yebed Hei, which means Reya Zenes, if a person pursues a wrong path, Yebed Hei is going to lose wealth. Reya Zenes, you pursue a wrong path, you lose wealth. What does this mean? When you do something a little bit wrong, you don't lose a little bit, you lose everything. That's the pshat in this pasuk. So the Medrash explains it. A person comes to Yiddishkeit and says, this is beautiful, this is nice, this mitzvah I like, this mitzvah I agree with, this mitzvah works for me. Or this mitzvah I don't like, this mitzvah I don't agree with. What's wrong? When a person says, I like this part of Torah, I don't like this part of Torah, I like this mitzvah. So you're not destroying Yiddishkeit, you're simply saying, I like this and I don't like this. The moment you say, I like, Yeved Hein, you didn't lose the part that you said, I don't like, you lost the I like also. Faros. Says the Rabbi, Ma'abed Heina Shal Torah, you lose the entire wealth of Torah. Last line on page Kuf Peivav, V'hain Shema'abed Gam. You even lose Es HaShmuah She'emen Aleha Shehina. The part of Torah that you like is also lost to you. Says the Rebbe on top of page Kuf Peizayin, why? Why? Why if I say I like this mitzvah, don't like this mitzvah, I lose even the mitzvah I like? Why if I say I like this part of Torah, I don't like this part of Torah, I leave part of Torah that I like? Says the Rebbe on the second line from the top of page Kuf Peizayin, is it not true that the Gemara says you should learn what you want? So if I'm supposed to learn with a gishmak, what's wrong with saying I like this and I don't like this? What's the connection? Right? The teretz is like 5 lines from top of page Kuf Pezai. You should know shechochmas hateira chaluka mikol shara chochmas. Teira is different than all other wisdom. Why? The obvious reason is because it's God's wisdom. Yeah, but there's something more, and the something more is as follows. God's wisdom per se, eina shayeches lahasaga. We shouldn't understand one drop of it. God's wisdom is not the pshat, it's more than wisdom. It isn't wisdom at all. It's not only that it's seichel and more than seichel, it bichlal is not seichel. We should really not understand one single solitary thought in Torah because it's same stuff. Shalei shayech shasigu eisa, it's impossible to understand it. Not about them. We do understand Torah. Is the teretz. Our possibility to reach an understanding in Torah is mipnei sherata kadosh baruch hu shebnei Yisrael yiskashlu elo. God Almighty wants there should be a bond between Yidden and Himself. Yidden connect themselves to the Torah, and through their connection to the Torah, their connection to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And he wanted, moreover, that not only should the godly soul connect to the Eibishter, the animal soul, the body should also connect to the Eibishter. How do you connect Yetzirah to godliness? And the Teretz says, you make Chochmah of Torah understandable. Yetzirah says, I'm a smart guy, I like this. Shmu Azu, no! The Yetzirah likes the Torah, not just the Yetzirah. You should be able to learn and understand the Torah, and Yisached ha'adam alei mit Torah. a person studying Torah becomes one, but yichud niflash and yichud the greatest wonders that could possibly be. Hashem takes something which is beyond wisdom. There's a story to which I don't have time to tell. Puts it into wisdom that the Torah should understand it. But the Rebbe has the Sikh of Mishpatim, one of the most important Sikhs spoken by the Rebbe 1 month to the day before the stroke, Tafshin and Beis, where the Rebbe says you should understand. People tell you that Leitir Tzach makes sense. People tell you Paraduma doesn't make sense. I want you to know Leitir Tzach is as illogical as Paraduma. But that's not a fact. Everybody says Leitir Tzach makes sense. And Paraduma doesn't make sense. And the Torah says this part of Torah God gave us on a level of wisdom. This part of Torah God Almighty did not give us on a level of wisdom. But in terms of human intellect alone, they're completely the same. You shouldn't understand this. You shouldn't understand this. Why did the Eibishter make you understand the part of Torah called Mishpatim? And to some degree the part of Torah called Eidus. And he left a part called Chukim on a level you don't understand it at all, because he wants it to be Bepnimius. The Nefesh HaBahamis understands only those parts of Torah that are not, that make sense. But the Nefesh HaLekis relates to the parts of Torah that are Einam Noim, that do not make sense, because he's godly. What happens when you come alone and say Shmu Zunah? I only like the logic of Torah. So by Pashtus you're saying, I don't like this part of Torah, I don't like this part of Torah. But what you're really saying is, I only like the logic of Leitir Tzach, and not the truth of Leitir Tzach. And Leitir Tzach doesn't make sense, B'yetzem. The Eibishter brought it down to a level of sense. It's really l'mayla menasech. So when you say Shmu Zunah, you're not just separating the parts of Torah I understand from the parts of Torah I don't understand. You're separating the understanding from the parts of Torah that you understand from the God of the parts of Torah you understand also. So it has no kiyum. This is what the Rebbe says. Moving, it's understood. Who a person learns Torah, 6 lines from the end of the paragraph, Kuf Pei Zayin. His interest is not to become attached to the Meibishtin. He understands it. He'll never reach the Torah. Why? Torah doesn't make sense at all. And when you say, I only learn Torah for Seichel, the parts of Torah that are Seichel also elude you. This is Pshat in the Chazal. When you say, I like this part of Torah, because it makes sense, Ma'abid, Gam, Shmuazu, you lose even the part of Torah you understand. Why? Because Kivan Shalamud, no, you're only learning it because it's Gishmak, because it makes sense, because it's reasonable. And in Amit, it's on Yonim, the most logical points in Torah, also higher than logic, says the Rebbe Vezehu, and this is the real plan. The Yavonim want that you forget Torah, they came along and said, forget the God of Torah. But they understood. Battle, safe. It will destroy Torah altogether. This was the deviousness. This was the hischakmus. This was the trick of the Yavonim. So officially they said, be a Jew culturally and intellectually, not religiously. In reality, they were saying by being a Jew culturally and religiously, not religiously, they could end up without the culture and without the knowledge, because there's no God, and the truth of Torah is God. How do you combat that? How do you fight with that? Someone comes along with a sword and says, I'm killing you because I want you to kiss a cross. You can fight. How do you fight with someone who comes to you with a smile and he wants to embrace you? How do they say it in Nusach of America? Just melt. How do you fight with that? Says the Rebbe, Vezehu. They wanted to get away from Torah mitzvahs. Because they understood that by taking away Yidden from Torah mitzvahs, safe, they're going to destroy Yiddishkeit altogether. Okay, turn the page. Turn to page Kuf Peches. How do you fight with this? How do you combat this? Yidden stood at a war against the Syrian Greeks. But how? Mitech Mesidas Nefesh on a level of Mesidas Nefesh, which is really higher than reason. Says the Rebbe, you should know. The war the Yidden fought with the Greeks was their struggle was not only higher than human reason, the Kedusha was higher than holiness. When the Yevonim, the Chashmonaim went on Mesidas Nefesh, they did not ask any Rav. Because they would ask a Rav, the Rav would say that what they were planning to do was also, you're not allowed to do it. They went on Mesidas Nefesh higher than the Cheshbonus of Torah. Every time I say this, I remember the Rebbe saying this. I remember the tzich when the Rebbe spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu broke in the luchas. Simchas Torah. The Rebbe said, "Why did Moshe Rabbeinu make the luchas? He saw that Yidden were in a sakana. He saw that Yidden were in a sakana because the luchas was the ksav of ksubah, right? And he had to save Yidden." So I can hear the Rebbe saying the word "Eretz Brachen the Torah." Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Torah. He didn't discuss it with anybody. He didn't ask anybody Eitzes. He didn't even ask the Eibishter himself. And when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Torah, he didn't know there was going to be a second Torah. He had to save the Jewish people. The Chashmonaim went on a Mesiras Nefesh, and in this Mesiras Nefesh broke the Torah, because the Torah would never allow them to do what they did. And the Rebbe explains why. He says, if you look 5 lines from the top, it says, Gzeres HaYevonim Hoysal Mila Shabbos V'Taras HaMishpach. 3 things. Mila, Shabbos, and Taras HaMishpach. 6 lines from the top. Mila v'Shabbos Heimei HaMitzvah Shechol Aleim Adin Yavav V'Yehor. Mila v'Shabbos, Mila and Shabbos, are Mei HaMitzvahs, are those mitzvahs Shechol Aleim Yavav. Person says to you, either you circumcise your child, I'll kill you. You're not allowed to do it, but it's. Keep Shabbos, be Machal with kids. You have to be Machal Shabbos, that's not law. Even Gilei Aroyes, there's ways of getting around Gilei Aroyes also. In other words, Mila, Shabbos, Taras HaMishpacha, you're not mechuyev to be Mesa Nefesh for. And if you have to be mechuyev to be Mesa Nefesh for, you're not allowed to be Mesa Nefesh. Now wait, keep going. Va'af, I am now 9 lines from the top of the page, middle of the line. Shebesas hashmad, yesh ne'achiyev the yahareg v'yave b'chol ha'mitzvahs. When a goy is a shmad, that means to say he's trying to desecrate and destroy Yiddishkeit on principle. He's trying to forcibly destroy the neshama of Yiddishkeit. Then you're mechuyev to be Mesa Nefesh for the smallest thing. In a time of shmad, it's Mesa Nefesh Shabbos for Mila, for Arkaz of the Masana, for Shulei. When a guy is trying to destroy Yiddishkeit on principle, you have to die on principle. Says the Rebbe, but that also has a limit. What's the limit? A guy comes to you and says, either you do this Aveda, I'm going to kill you. So then you have to die not to do even the smallest Aveda. But even in the worst level of Mesiras Nefesh, the highest level of Mesiras Nefesh, where a guy is trying to destroy and desecrate what's holy and what's precious to the Jewish people, and you're mechuyev to Mesa Nefesh even for the smallest thing. What does that mean? You have to die not to do the Aveda. Says the Rebbe. Logically, ein leimar, it's wrong to say, listen to these words, to go out into a war neged hamalchus of against this evil government. That made this, you're not allowed to do. The Rambam has a geras called the Geras Hashmad. In the Rambam, the Geras Hashmad, he lists 5 madregas of Mesiras Nefesh. The highest madrega is called Mesiras Nefesh al Kiddush Hashem b'mokum Shmad, especially if it's beparhesia. But if you're living in mountains, and the mountains are surrounded by narrow roads, and you can look down at your opponent, and they don't have air support. There's no airplanes, yes? And you could live on those hills for who knows how long, practice Torah and do mitzvahs. So if the enemy tries to come up the hill, you can fight them from above. And you chose to go out of those mountains, into the valley, fight with the Greeks, a battle you're for sure going to lose. There is no such permission in Torah. Even in Shas HaShmad, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because you're going to a suicide. When the guy comes to you and says, do this or I'll kill you, that's the guy's business. But when you go to the guy and you start a war that you cannot win, this is a Mesiras Nefesh that has zero makam in Torah whatsoever. Says the Rebbe Mizeh moving which teaches us. Sham Mesiras Nefesh levatal gezeidah say that when the Yidden went, the Chashmonaim went, to destroy the gezeidah of the Syrian Greeks is lamayla mitam v'das the Kedusha. Has no place in the logic of Torah and Chochmah. It's lamayla min haseichel legamri. The Mesiras. So how do you fight this? Yeah? The Greeks come along, they tell you, learn Torah, do mitzvahs, take God out of it. So the Rebbe teaches us that when they say to take God out of Torah and mitzvahs, they're really saying Torah mitzvahs will kill itself. Torah mitzvahs, our God, cannot exist because it's not reasonable at all. But how do you combat such an opponent? He's not coming with a knife, he's coming with a smile. He's coming with culture. Is the Teretz Mesiras Nefesh. On the highest level of Mesiras Nefesh. Or Mesiras Nefesh, which is even higher than Torah and mitzvahs. And the Rebbe continues, Ve'eid inyin b'mailas ha-Mesiras Nefesh levatal gezeiras el. There's one more thing. And what was that? The Hine Gezedas HaYavonim Hoysa B'derech is Chakmus. The Yavonim came like nice guys. They were devious. They were duplicitous. Echad b'peh ve'echad b'lev. They said one thing and they meant something different. They tricked you. They fooled you. It looked to Yidden like a very nice idea. Goyim are being nice to them. They're embracing them. They want them to be like them. They want them to be equal. Shavah b'shavah. So it was very difficult to ascertain the evil in it. They only attacked certain mitzvahs. They really wanted to destroy everything, but it was very devious. When you're fighting with an enemy, he doesn't come out and say, I hate you. But he comes out with a smile, and he says, I'm your buddy. To fight an enemy that's devious is the hardest thing. Because you're not even sure. Yeah, someone come from the Bavasta Maise. The Russia wanted to make a decree that all Rabbanim have to learn Russian. The Rabbanim have to learn Russian. In Russia, Rabbanim were official agents of the government. They had official recognition of the government. They had a lot of power. In 1910, a little while before the Bolshevik Revolution, the government of Russia made a new gazette. The Rabbanim have to learn read and write Russian. It was a very famous meeting. The Rebbe Rashab and Reb Chaim Briski went to this meeting. They were the Gedolei Russia at the time. And no one knew what to do. Because the Russian government wasn't asking Rabbanim to wear trim beards or chupinkis or go to college. They wanted them to learn how to read and write Russian. How big a deal is that? And they came to this Hasifa and they talked and talked and talked. And finally, when it came to the head, the Rebbe Rashab says that the Briski Rav, Reb Chaim Briski, should speak. And Chaim Briski says, I don't know. So the Rebbe Rashab said, if the Briski Rav is nicht reden, will ich reden. The Rebbe Rashab got up and he lambasted it. He went to war, Melchemes Mitzvah, not to get the government, the Russian mixed into the Rabbanim. And he screamed and shouted, Osir. You understand what that happened after that? After that, the Russian government took modern Jews and made the Rabbanim mitam. What it did to Yiddishkeit in Russia is catastrophic. Mamish catastrophic. All they wanted is to learn to read, write in Russian. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, no, they're not going to mix into Ageshefkin. And the bottom line is, before the revolution happened, they were already Rabbanim mitam. The Chil Hashem started. How does the Rebbe Rashab know he's right? How do you know? It's so subtle. And if the Rav learns Russian, so what? So the Brisker Rav says to the Rebbe Nishma Seid, Lubavitcher Rebbe, do you realize what you're doing? You are saying that there's going to be in every city a real Rav with no power and a phony Rav with power. For what? For Russian? How do you know that that's a worthwhile battle? And the Rebbe's answer was, Azei Filech. This is my feeling. So the Brisker, Reb Chaim Brisker says, feelings? We're talking about Pekuach Nefesh. We stalten auf a Gefühl. And the Rebbe Nishma Seiden says, when I was 12, I trained my body to instinctively do like it says in Shulchan Aruch. I trust my instincts. So the Chaim Brisker says, if that is the case, we are with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's an incredible story. And if you think it's a story, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now it happened that a few years later was a war and a revolution. Had there not been a World War I, had there not been a revolution, who knows? Because of this thing that the Rebbe Rashab says, the Russian government doesn't tell our Rav what he should eat for breakfast, let alone whether he should learn Russian. It's none of his business. It's a Mesiras Nefesh about what? It's so tricky. And this is the Chanuka story. They didn't even know if they were right and wrong for fighting. The Rebbe brings later in the paragraph from Hashem Toli, it's a suffix. How do you know? And the Chashmei Noyim got clarity. From where? We don't know. They got a clarity that said this is evil and it has to be fought. Even though the Chayre wasn't such a big deal. Look at the Rebbe himself. It says, the Syrian Greeks were being devious to have a clarity and identify this as evil. To fight this deviousness of the Greeks in the Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh l'mayla miseichel enushi. Mesiras Nefesh l'mayla miseichel the Gedusha. And a Mesiras Nefesh which looks at a situation which looks so benign What's the big deal? How many times you hear in America, what's the big deal? We're slipping and sliding into Americanism, Rahman al-Islam, into total hippieism, and every small step is, what's the big deal? It's got to stop someplace. The Yevonim, the Hashmonaim recognized this is evil, and they stood their ground on something which Api Allah, you're not allowed to stand your ground. They went against the Torah to preserve the Torah. This Mesiras Nefesh defeated the Hashmonaim. V'hine ayidei zeh sheYisrael omdu b'milchama b'tech Mesiras Nefesh l'mautam v'das. This Mesiras Nefesh hayagam hanitzochem b'milchama b'eifin shel l'mayla mi'ateva. That's why they won. Gebeirem yad chaloshim Rav Madiyat. Says the Rebbe, that's not the end of the story. They won a war. They should never have won. They won it. L'mayla mi'ateva l'gam b'eifin gvaldik nisa. As the Rebbe is going to say later on, it was a Pada BiShalom. But that's not the end. After the Yidden showed this clarity, not a reasonable clarity, a neshama clarity. Some things you got to die for, even though you can't argue it in a court of law or in a bezdin of Torah. And the Hashmonaim stood their ground, and they were right. So Hashem makes one nest that they win the war, but then that's not enough. Hashem gives them an unnecessary second miracle. The miracle of the jug of oil. They find the jug of oil. Shayamunach b'cheisamach Ken Gadol is sitting with the Ken Gadol seal. It had enough oil to burn a day. Nasa b'nes, a second nest happens. In addition to finding the oil, there was a second nest. V'edliku mimenu shmeina yom, the last 8 days. Says the Rebbe Shakol said this entire second miracle was not necessary. It was kedei lahares chibasam shal Yisrael, to show the Eibishter was telling Klal Yisrael, you love me, I love you. Hein klalos, first in general, and then 5 lines in Hein Nesher Yochal B'Yechad. There's 2 miracles: finding the oil and the oil burning. They didn't need these nis. Why did they happen? Because the Yidden showed a clarity that could not be justified in reason. A clarity that came from their etzem, and the Eibishter gave him back a gushpanka, a support for this clarity with the Nes HaNedis. After the Mulchama, says the Rebbe, I'm not 8 lines into the page, why? Says the Gemara, Sheklolos and Yonai, the Nermaravi is Eidus Achoboy, Elam Sheshchina Sheda B'Yisrael. It was on the Meneda, because the Meneda is the place where there was a special miracle constantly in the Beis HaMikdash that said that the Eibush is resting by Yidden. They would light a bunch of candles, and every single day one of the candles would burn much longer than any of the others. And it was the Eidus L'chol Yistelchol Ha'elam called it. Goyim saw all the other candles burn at night, and in the morning they're extinguished. The Nermaravi brennt noch. Now the truth is that the Gemara says that in Zman Ba'Yeshena there was not these nisim. When Shimon HaTzadik passed away, 40 years in Zman Ba'Yeshena, the miracle stopped. Chanukah is 200 years later, but in the Chanukah story this showed itself again. Hashem made a nes for no practical purpose other than to show love for Klal Yisrael. Why? They show the Eibush still love on a level of Ma'alim and Atam Vadas. The Eibush shows them love reciprocally. Kum taste this 2 nisim to Chanukah, and 1 you must have. You don't have the first nest, there is no Chanukah. Second one you don't need, but the Eibush still wishes it. He chooses it. So the Rebbe says, based on the above, sheklol is ha'inyan de Chanukah, who are psif zayin, who are the Mesiras Nefesh, the Yisrael shel l'mayla mitam v'das. Yidden show the level of Mesiras Nefesh under the worst and the most difficult conditions. Nimshecha ha'ava ha'atzim is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Yidden reciprocally show a love to the Eibush that reciprocally shows a love to the Yidden shel l'mayla mitam v'das. And that's why you have the Nes Hashem. Says the Rebbe, Yuvam, when you understand that B'chlal you didn't need the Nes HaNedis, you just need the Nes HaMilchama. And Nes HaMilchama was big enough. It was enough of a supernatural event as a Yidden had Mesiras Nefesh. The Eibush gave them a Nes L'mal Matam V'das. The Shemen is icing on a cake. You don't need it. And the Eibush gives it, why? Chiba. I love you. Says the Rebbe, Yuvan Gam B'Negel Prati Honyam Chanukah. That's why Chanukah Licht is when the sun goes down on the outside of your house, facing the street, and on the left. B'Shishishka HaChama, Al Pesach Beis Mi B'Chutz, and on the Smeh, Farvos. So the Rebbe goes into the whole arichas about Pada BiShalom Nafshi. You can fight a war and win through a struggle. You can fight a war and win peacefully. But in winning peacefully, Gufa, there's 2 madregas. And I don't have time to go inside, so I'll say, Bekitzer, one level is you have to go to the enemy and fight, and Hashem makes a ness of shalom. The other is that you stay in your place, and sitting in your Yerushalayim, a light shines which transforms the enemy. And the Rebbe, by the way, mentions Agav, Shlomo HaMelech did that. Shlomo HaMelech sat in his place, but the world came to Shlomo. But Shlomo HaMelech could only elevate Klipas Nega, not Sholosh Klipas Meis Legamri. And the idea is that after Shlomo it went back to Mulcham. What's Moshiach? A light sits in the Beis HaMikdash, it shines a light to the whole world, transforms not just Klipas Nega, but Sholosh Klipas Meis Legamri, in a way that it will never be Klipa again. Says the Rebbe, that's the two miracles. The Nes HaNeides is a Pada BiShalom Taka, but you have to go to the enemy. And I'm sorry, the Nes HaMulchama is a Pada BiShalom Taka, you have to go to your enemy. And the Nes HaNeides is Mashiach Pashat. It's a Gili of L'Asad Lovin. It's a candle in the Beis HaMikdash, which says there's no enemy. That's the story. An unnecessary miracle for the sake of Shon Chibas and Shal Yisrael. Says the Rebbe, the Inyan of Mashiach is Mavarek Klipo. Since the Nes HaNeides is a messianic Inyan, in the Nes HaNeides you see Mashiach. You do it outside, facing the street, after dark, and on the left side. All of these points show that you're elevating the unelevatable. That's Mashiach. That's what it says here in the Maimer. And you're going to have to forgive me, but I don't have any more time.